Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Today we're going to talk about the 8 essentials to health and healing that they do not teach doctors in medical school. They do not teach doctors in medical schools. They do not teach pharmacists. They do not teach nurses. They do not teach any healthcare professionals. These 8 essentials to actually maintaining your health, or in the case where you lose your health, healing your body. Now, you got to just conceptualize that for just a moment. Because if these 8 things are absolutely essential to health, and they're not being taught to healthcare professionals, and they're not being taught to you in school either, then are we really in a society that is trying to maintain health? Are schools being built? Organizations like the CDC and the FDA being constructed in the name of health, in the name of protection, in the name of healing, but yet and still, these 8 essentials aren't taught in school to none of the healthcare professionals. This is one of the things while I was working in a hospital and started to heal myself and realized I wasn't taught any of this. Like, I realized that as I was trying to heal myself, I was literally taking myself through school, reading things that I had never read in school. Now, consider this for a moment. I was in school for 8 years, okay? I got 2 undergraduate degrees, science degrees, okay? 4 years. Another 4 years in pharmacy school, okay? Not to count the countless clinical hours that I've had in a hospital setting. I started working for a hospital over 15 years ago, okay? So just put that in consideration. 8 years of scientific health studies, 8 years, all right? 15 years working as a clinician, yet and still, none of these things were taught to me. So as I started my health and healing journey, trying to heal myself of high blood pressure and gaining a tremendous amount of weight, when I came out of undergrad, I do believe I was somewhere around 190 pounds, okay? By the time I left pharmacy school, I was around about 245, all right? So I had gained almost 60 pounds. So hugely important. I was literally trying to heal myself. And as I'm trying to heal myself with modern medicine, what I had actually been taught in school, and the same thing your doctor would tell you, nothing was working. Nothing was helping the weight go off my body. I would lose 5 or 10 pounds. And then 2 weeks later, the 5 or 10 pounds comes back. The sleep apnea wouldn't resolve. I had sleep apnea. So that was affecting not only my blood pressure, but my heart as well too. My sleep, my quality of sleep, the high blood pressure that I got diagnosed with when I was 16 years old. Nothing helped that either. Even the medication, even though it would lower my blood pressure, I still had the symptoms that I didn't know about because I know the body from a holistic picture now, but I was still experiencing the symptoms. And as we know, the vast majority of people who have heart attacks and strokes, they're on medication when they have the heart attack or stroke. So the point I'm trying to make to you is that the foundation in which the healthcare system is based on and built on, the foundation in which the institutions that create those healthcare professionals that administer the health to the patients, to the population, to the people, the foundation in which is built on is not actually built on health. It's not built on healing someone. And once I understood that, that is when I wiped my hands clean of trying to heal myself with the knowledge that I had attained over the course of 8 years in school, okay, almost a decade, and another 15 years as a clinician, okay? So at that point, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, I've been over here on the side of chemistry that doesn't favor healing. And I was an obvious case. Nothing changed my conditions. A CPAP machine for sleep apnea, although can help you, is not a remedy. Blood pressure medication, although it'll lower your blood pressure, it is not a remedy. It is only attacking the symptom, which is the high blood pressure, not the actual cause that is causing the high blood pressure. Okay? The weight gain, which creates so many other health issues. The almost 50 to 60 pounds that I gained, that was causing problems with my back, that was probably contributing to the sleep apnea. None of the chemistry and the biology that I learned in the 8 years that I was in school helped me at all with it. Okay? So I wiped my hands clean of it. I said, okay, I've been on the side of chemistry that is known as inorganic, synthetic chemistry. All right? Let's go on the side that is actually organic chemistry, which means organic means life. Okay? Let's go on the side of living. Okay? And that is plant medicine. That is food as medicine, living food. And when I made that switch and started to understand why these things were working, this is what I'm going to share with you guys today, the 8 essentials to health and healing. This is why so many people are so sick and overweight. 75% of Americans are either overweight or obese. 75%. It is more common. It is more common to be overweight and obese than it is to be a healthy weight. Okay? 60 to 70% of Americans are on at least one prescription drug. That means that it is more common for people to be sick and have a chronic disease than it is for people to actually be healthy. Okay? So we are in a sick, overweight society. We're in a society that is by far the most obese and overweight society that has ever existed in human existence. Put that in framework. The most obese, the most overweight, and the sickest society that has ever existed in human existence. Okay? And it's because we don't teach these principles that I'm about to share. And we don't actually use these principles in practice. And as a result, either on a personal level or when you go to your doctor, your clinic, your hospital. And this is why people not only are so sick, this is why people stay sick and they get worse. They do not teach us this. Okay? What I'm about to share with you, they do not require it. They do not teach it. Okay? All right. So let's get started. I mean, I can go on my soapbox for hours, but you can imagine what it's like to actually think that you're helping people and to discover that you're not helping people and that in many cases, you're making the situation actually worse. And the guilt that comes with that and the hypocrisy that comes with that and the feeling duped because I put 8 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars into my education. And the idea that I thought I was on a path, that I was on the wrong track, you can imagine how I felt when I discovered that I had been going 1,000 miles in the wrong direction. Okay? So these are the 8 essentials to health. They do not teach doctors. They do not teach pharmacists, nurses. They do not teach healthcare professionals. All right? Number one is toxicity. Okay, yeah, there's a class called toxicology, but they don't teach toxicity from a standpoint of how it's coming into our bodies and how it affects our health, the type of toxins that are the most common, okay, the household toxins, the food toxins and chemicals, the toxins that are in the air, the toxins that are in the water. They don't teach that fluoride is a toxin, so people think it's normal for it to be in water. Or that chlorine is in water, or chloramine that they're adding to water. Nobody knows that these things are actually carcinogens. Okay? Nobody knows what a PFOA is. Okay? And how it's in basically all of your pots and pans, and every time you cook, you're putting that toxin into your food, and it's known to be a carcinogen that causes cancer. They don't teach you that 70% of the standard American diet is highly processed foods that are filled with toxins. Okay. And what impact does that have on your health? What accumulation, how does that accumulate in the body? Because most of the time when they're studying the toxins, they're studying them individually. But when you look at a label for one food product, there's at least 50 chemicals in a lot of the food products, just one that people are consuming, and people are consuming multiples every day. Not to mention, that's just food. We're not talking about what you wash your clothes with. We're not talking about the things that you clean your house with. We're not talking about what's in the water, what's in the air. So we never consider what is the accumulative effect on a biology level or a biochemistry level of all of these toxins accumulating in our bodies. Do they leave? Yeah, we may look at a toxin or a heavy metal individually and see what happens, you know, on an individual level, but we're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of chemicals that we're putting in our bodies on a daily basis for decades that is accumulating in the tissues on a cellular level. They don't teach us about that. So as a result, when you go into the doctor, you may have heavy metal toxicity, and you may have worked at a heavy metal plant. You may have worked at a concrete plant where there's a lot of heavy metals in there, okay? They never consider that. Rarely is that ever considered. Or that if you're pescatarian and the heavy metals that you're getting, all that mercury that you're getting from all of the fish, because you don't know that certain type of fish accumulate heavy levels of mercury. So then you thinking to yourself, well, I'm pescatarian. I'm primarily eating mostly plants with a little bit of fish here. But you go into the doctor, you're having cognitive issues. We're having nervous system issues. You're having gut issues. And you never attribute that to the fact that could it be the heavy metals? And the reason why the doctor never attributes that to your health issue is because we're not taught that. We're not taught to look for these type of things, especially in the society that we live in today. If we were to go back and look at our grandparents, our great-grandparents' diets in the 1950s and before, and you compare the food, okay? Compare the same meal you would have ate today versus the same meal they would have ate 50 years ago. But most of your things are in box, bag, cans, and jars, and there's a lot of toxicity and food chemicals and dyes and emulsifiers and thickening agents that you have no idea, because they used to get their things straight from a farmer's market or the farmer, and it used to be fresh. Because if you go back to the 1940s and 30s, most people didn't even have a refrigerator, okay? It's a relatively new invention around that time. So if we go back and look at our great-grandparents and their diets, it was mostly plants. It was mostly organic, okay? Because the new agri-system of spraying everything with toxins, pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides wasn't heavily in place then, okay? So it's hugely important, you know, and understand that you have to be the gatekeeper of your toxicity that you put in and on your body and in your environment, because we are not taught this. Even as a pharmacist, they did not teach us about this, okay? Even as a pharmacist. So toxicity, not taught about that. Again, yes, I took a toxicology class. Did it teach me anything about the toxicity that is in food? How to watch out for the toxicity that is in the water, etc.? No, it did not. Number two, the number two thing we're not taught as healthcare professionals in school, nutrition. I know this sounds crazy to you because I hear people say this all the time. They went into their doctor, they had gallbladder surgery or gallbladder stones. They had digestive issues. They had irritable bowel syndrome. They had colon cancer. You name it. All of these things that are directly connected to the digestive system. And then they say, well, what do I need to change in my diet? When the doctor gives them a prescription, the doctor says, oh, there's nothing in your diet and you need to walk. I literally have heard a doctor tell a patient with colon cancer, this has nothing to do with your diet. And your colon is literally being eaten away by cancer. And the only thing that touches your colon is what goes into this pie hole. And you don't think anything has to do with what you're eating? You got to be a damn fool to think that to be true. Okay? But the reason why they say that is not because they're malicious. It's not because they're evil scientists or they hate you or they're trying to make money. It's not because of that. And I'll explain why in just a second. The reason is we're not taught nutrition at all. So when you ask your doctor a question about nutrition, it's literally like asking your homeboy. You're asking a layman. They don't, we are not required to take nutrition. Now I took it because one of my science degrees was exercise physiology. Okay. So I had to take a nutrition course, but other than that, I didn't have to take anything. All right. So we are not required to take nutrition courses, which means that we can't guide you in the foundation of health, which is what you eat. Listen, only 5% of diseases are caused by genetic or congenital effects, okay? Congenital diseases. Only 5% of diseases, and they are the most rare diseases. They're not the things you think. They're not diabetes. They're not heart disease. They're not thyroid issues. They're not, things that are related to autoimmune conditions. None of those things. The things that when you look around in your family and you see these things are running in your family, consistent, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, things of that nature. Those are not in those 95% of diseases aren't genetic. 95% of diseases are lifestyle. And lifestyle is primarily what you eat with a whole host of other things like sunlight, water, movement, etc. Okay? So we don't learn the foundation of health and healing, which is what you're eating, what you're putting in your pie hole. Okay? So it makes sense why we're so sick. Okay? So I want you to think about this for a second. And this will help you know that what I'm saying is true. When you go into a hospital, you ever visited someone in the hospital or been in the hospital yourself and had to stay there as an inpatient and look at the food that they give people who are in the damn hospital. It is processed junk food. Things that are in plastic wrappers, a little bit of ice cream, a scoop of this, some highly processed meat, some highly processed mashed potatoes, some genetically modified corn, okay? Now, that's what they're feeding people who are actually sick and in the hospital, okay? But here's why I really want you to take a look at for a second, and then you'll really know that they do not teach us nutrition. Otherwise, we're just being intentionally ignorant. Look at the cafeteria, okay? Where most of us as healthcare professionals go to eat on our break. Look at the food they're serving there. Highly processed, unhealthy food in most hospitals. Look at the restaurants that are in hospitals. Most restaurants I see in hospitals are like Taco Bell and McDonald's. I literally worked at a hospital that had a McDonald's in it. And guess what? You would see healthcare professionals, doctors, pharmacists, and nurses in line on their break at McDonald's getting food. That has to tell you we know nothing about nutrition. We were not required to take it. We know nothing about it. Everything that most doctors tell you about nutrition is layman's advice. It's stuff they Googled, okay? It's stuff that they think is true. Okay. And that is very dangerous. Okay. And take a look at most healthcare professionals. Most healthcare professionals, although they pour their heart out to their patients, spending 14 and 16 hours at the hospital, most healthcare professionals are unhealthy too. They're on just as many medications as you are. They're just as overweight as you are. I remember being at a potluck at work, and one of the doctors brought in a 7-cheese macaroni. And when you went to take the spoon to run the spoon through it, to stir it up, I mean, it sounded like mayo. It was so thick going through it. And I was like, man, that's going to give you a heart attack. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'll just take another one of my Lipitors, which is for cholesterol. So it tells you we know absolutely nothing about nutrition. They do not require us to learn it. And that is a foundation of health and healing. Number 3, the microbiome. Okay, that's the good bacteria in your gut. But here's the other thing. You have a microbiome in your gut. You have a microbiome on your skin. You have a microbiome in your nostrils. Women have a microbiome in their vaginal canal. You also have a microbiome inside of your mouth as well too. And here's just a few functions of your microbiome, that good bacteria garden in all the places that I just named. Helps you to digest and break down food, okay? That sounds pretty important because you can eat all the healthy food you want, but if you can't break it down, you can't get the nutrients out. And it turns into waste in your body and can't be transported out of the body because it's not properly broken down. And now it turns into a toxin, okay? So it helps to digest food. 70 to 80% of your immune system comes from where? Your microbiome. So if you're a sickly person, you probably have an unhealthy microbiome. Number 3, it helps with mental health. It is key and instrumental for both serotonin and dopamine. We know dopamine gives us that I accomplished something, that feel-good feeling that we get when you get like 1,000 likes on Instagram or on YouTube, 1,000 views or whatever it is, and you feel good because you feel recognized. Guess what? That's dopamine. And guess what? The microbiome, it helps to produce dopamine and also serotonin. And it's 90% of serotonin. And serotonin is known as the happy molecule. Okay? Because it keeps us happy. So as it drops down, guess what? We get less and less happier. Okay? So an unhealthy gut leads to mental health issues like depression, anxiety, etc. All right. It's also good for the skin as well, too. So you got skin issues. As I told you, we got a microbiome here. We got the microbiome, even in our gut, is intimately connected with our skin as well, too. But the microbiome on our skin helps to protect us, okay, from fungus and bacteria. But it also converts the oils that are coming out of our skin into like a natural moisturizer. This is why when you eat healthy and you have a healthy microbiome, your skin looks glowing. And the tone is great as well, too. All right. Also, the microbiome produces its own antibiotics, meaning it can produce antibiotics, those ones that you get, from the synthetic kind, the prescriptions. The microbiome is capable of producing its own antibiotics to fight off to fight off bacteria. But it also can produce things to fight off viruses as well, too. Okay. And I'll tell you this, the prescription antibiotics kill your microbiome. Put that in perspective for a second. They absolutely kill and murder your microbiome. All right. And then also it helps to maintain blood pressure as well, too. This is why unhealthy gut can lead to high blood pressure as well, too. And that definitely was part of my problem as well, too, because I definitely had an unhealthy gut. All right, so that's number 3, the microbiome. Number 4, botany, which is the study of plants, and plant medicine. They don't teach us that. All right, this is why when somebody does my detox, all right, I always tell them, hey, take it into your doctor. Let him see the back. He can see the ingredients, etc. I always say that. But here's the thing. They don't teach us that. So this is why a lot of healthcare professionals, when they find out that patients are taking any kind of natural remedies, they shy away from it, because the industry that did teach us, the pharmaceutical industry, has programmed us to believe that anything natural is bad and everything synthetic is good. So when you're using drugs, don't use the plants, because the plants will affect the drugs. Okay, so it's hugely important to know and understand. This started in the early 1900s with Rockefeller. Rockefeller created this whole new idea of taking over the medical industry. And he started by creating a report. And the report was called the Flexner Report. He had this guy, last name Flexner, go all through the United States, visiting all the medical schools. He did a report telling what medical schools were good, what medical schools were bad. There was only one that he came back pretty much and said was decent, and that was Johns Hopkins. Every other one, he's pretty much wrote a bad report on. And after this report, he started what is called the GEB, or the General Education Board, and started flooding money into it and told schools the only way you can get this money, millions of dollars, the only way you can get this money is if you go by these new standards. And one of those new standards was the only approved therapy is a pharmaceutical drug. It has to be patented. And guess what? You can't patent nature. The reason why you can't patent nature is because it's nature. All right? You can patent anything that is synthetic, and that's what drugs are. All right? So it essentially created a war on drugs. All right? And all of the schools that essentially said, okay, I'll follow what you want us to do, that's what they started doing. Only using drugs, only using, surgeries, only using patented therapies. And they essentially outlawed anything that was natural. That included not only plant medicine, but things like chiropractic work, things like energy work. All of these natural modalities that have been people primarily use up until that time. So the schools essentially said, okay, well, to get your money, we'll go. And guess what? Schools are still doing the same thing today. No different. No different. All right? So this is why most healthcare professionals never learn anything about nature, botany, the study of plants, or plant medicine. And this is why most of them are against plant medicine, because we've been taught that. Even when we're taught about certain herbs, we're taught about the interactions that these herbs have with drugs. We're not taught about the therapeutic benefits to the actual patient. And we don't realize that in some cases, the actual herb needs to be in place and no medication. All right, so it's really important to understand. Until you understand nature, you'll never understand biology. Biology is the study of life. Plants were here long before we were. So we come from plants. We're of plants. We're of nature. So until you understand plants and nature, you'll never understand biology, which is why we'll never understand healing if you continue in the direction that they're going in. All right? Hugely important. Number 5, connection, not reduction. Here's what I mean by that. We're taught to look at the human body and disease from a reductionist standpoint. What that means is that I compartmentalize whatever is going on. So if you have diabetes, it means that you have elevated blood sugar. I'm only going to look at your blood sugar, which means that I'm only looking in the blood, which means that I don't look at what is causing the actual blood sugar to be elevated or spiked. That's a reductionist model that healthcare professionals live by and think by. It is the most absolute, let me be respectful. It is one of the most unintelligent ways to think about something. Because what it doesn't do is consider the whole picture. It doesn't consider the whole patient. It doesn't consider the lifestyle. It only looks at the blood and the blood sugar. which means that they make a drug that does something to the blood sugar. But that is the symptom, not the cause. If you address the symptom and never address the cause, guess what? You're going to be a lifelong patient. That's all that means. You're going to be a lifelong patient. That means this is why there's no drug for a chronic illness that you start and then it heals you. Name one. Not even over the counter. We don't even have a cure for the common cold. Okay? Let alone high blood pressure, let alone diabetes, let alone strokes. People don't even know, like, if you ask your doctor what's causing the clots, like, let's start there. But we can't start there because we don't have the foundation, all right? So we're constantly looking at you from an individual standpoint. So when you got a problem with your gallbladder, instead of addressing the cause, they just remove your gallbladder. Gallbladder surgery or gallbladder removal surgery is the #1 elected surgery in America. They do somewhere between 500 and 700,000 surgeries to remove gallbladders every year. All right? And all of a sudden you feel better because you're not throwing up or you're not having, fatty stools, etc. But what they don't tell you is all of the symptoms that come with having your gallbladder removed, which I think is hugely important. Hugely important. You're going to have issues digesting fat. You're going to have very bad diarrhea, gas and bloating. You're going to have stomach pain. You're going to have right shoulder pain. Okay? That's one of the signs and symptoms. You're going to have yellow eyes and yellow skin sometimes because of that bowel accumulation. Your liver, which is still going to be producing bile, but it's going to be dropping it directly into your small intestines. That leads to issues. They don't talk about that. Okay? Dryness in your eyes and vision issues. This is all just from gallbladder removal surgery. Okay? And it increases your risk for type 2 diabetes. So I literally hear this and see this all the time. People who had their gallbladder removed, now they have type 2 diabetes. Now they got vision issues. Now they're having a whole ton of digestive issues that they were having in the first place, but they addressed the symptom by removing the gallbladder, which is something that you need because it concentrates the bile. I mean, the bile in your to go into the small intestine. Okay? So hugely important. They do not teach us the connection of the body. I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound a little bit radical, but there is no heart. There is no gallbladder. There is no kidneys. There is no lungs. Everything works in unison like a symphony. So when you got an issue in your lungs, trust me, you got issues other places because everything is intimately connected. As a matter of fact, when if one cell started to become cancerous, every other cell in the body is alerted. We have 75 trillion cells in our body. So as soon as one cell becomes cancerous, the reason why you don't develop cancer is because neighboring cells see it happening, feel it happening, and communicate to virtually every cell in the body. And so when you get that disconnection with your body, the same disconnection that happens with the thinking around healing in the modern medicine system, now it doesn't alert those other cells. So that cancer is free to grow and roam in progress without notice. Okay? But this is a huge issue. It's a huge issue in modern medicine, not understanding that everything is intimately connected. There is no, trust me when I say this, everything is one in our bodies. I know it doesn't look that way, but you literally could have a toe issue that affect your liver, okay? You can have a spinal issue that affect one of your organs. Okay, it's hugely important to understand that everything is intimately connected. So number 5 is something that they just don't teach us. Number six, the lymphatic system. We skim over it, and they tell us a little bit about it, but we don't know anything about it. And the reason why I know we don't know anything about it is because most people's lymphatic system is stagnant. Most people's lymphatic system is overburdened with toxins. And that is causing a lot of the issues around people's health. Okay? Most people don't know that your lymphatic system is your waste system. It gets rid of not only waste, but it gets rid of excess fluid. It also gets rid of bacteria and viruses that have been inoculated. Okay? It also gets rid of cancer that has been killed as well, cancerous cells that have been killed as well too. So essentially, when your lymphatic system becomes blocked and stagnant, now all this backs up back into the body. That waste accumulates. Those bacteria, those viruses are able to sort of revitalize themselves. You have to know this. A virus isn't dead or alive. So even when you kill it, it's not dead. It's inoculated. It's neutralized. So if you don't get rid of it out of the body, it becomes a problem. Same thing with cancerous cells. Same thing with waste in the body. All right. So it's hugely important. We don't understand the lymphatic system. As a matter of fact, they just discovered that there's a lymphatic system in the brain. Now, the reason why that's crazy is because the brain is supposed to have a blood-brain barrier where nothing gets across, no toxins, no waste. And now we discovered that we have a lymphatic system called the lymphatic system in our brains that is removing waste, that is removing toxicity. Yeah. So we don't learn it. And because we don't learn it, we don't understand how when somebody gets Alzheimer's or dementia or other conditions of the brain, heavy metals, things of that nature, we don't understand the importance of our lymphatic system. So we never look at it. We never think that that's a problem. Number 7, the placebo effect. Now, we're taught the placebo effect in terms of the gold standard for clinical trials, which is a random control trial. Okay, we're taught in that sense. But what we're not taught is this. In most studies, the reason why they use a placebo in the gold standard for a clinical trial, they use a placebo because in many cases, the placebo, all right, so let me give you a little bit of explanation. So if somebody's coming out with a new therapy, a drug, right? They'll have the new drug that they're coming out with, and then they'll have another capsule that looks exactly like it, but it's got sugar in there, okay? So the capsules look exactly alike, and they'll randomize it because a randomized controlled trial, they have to randomize who gets what, all right? Now, they know who gets what in many cases in certain trials. All right, so this person got the placebo, the sugar pill. This person got the new drug, okay? You know what they've discovered in many of those trials is that people take the placebo, just a sugar pill, nothing in there. They take that and get better. As a matter of fact, they did it with antidepressant medications, and the placebo effect actually did better than the medications in many cases. And as a matter of fact, just to show you the placebo effect is real, they have did this with surgeries as well too. So let's say somebody was getting a knee surgery and they were supposed to get a total knee surgery, right? A total reconstructive knee, all right? Or hip surgery. The doctor would actually do the incision, but for the placebo, he would not actually do the surgery. So the patient would actually see there was a cut and that it was sewn up. So for the placebo, they did nothing. Then for the other patients, they did the actual surgery, the total reconstructive surgery. Guess what? In people who literally had no cartilage, bone on bone, in some of those people, they still improved. Their pain levels went down exponentially. Now, why am I bringing that up? What it says is we have the ability to think ourselves into health. We have the ability to use our mind and our thoughts to heal ourselves. All right? That's scientific proof. So if that's the case, I know we're taught about it in randomized controlled trials, but we're not taught about how we use the mind to actually heal ourselves. As a matter of fact, another case in point was a patient who actually, got cancer. And the doctor gave him literally a couple months to live. So he decided he was going to go home and do laughter therapy. If I'm going to die, I'm going to spend the last days of my life laughing. Watch all comedies, things that made him laugh for a couple of months. Guess what? The cancer went into remission. So the point I'm trying to make to you guys, we're far more powerful than we know. And in addition to that, our minds are capable of healing ourselves too. So it plays a huge part in terms of like the treatment or therapy that we should be actually talking to patients with. We should actually be giving them a mental approach to healing themselves as well too. All right. But instead we give them the diagnosis and the doomsday, response. And instead of thinking themselves in to health, they end up thinking themselves into death. And that's been also an interesting study as well, too. There were patients who were misdiagnosed. They were misdiagnosed and told they had cancer, but the labs got switched and they didn't know it. And so this patient was told they had cancer, but they actually didn't. It was another patient's labs. This patient went home and a couple months later actually had developed cancer. So we could do it in both directions. Hugely important. The last one, number 8, we're not taught the body's innate ability to heal itself. This is why we've created a pill for every ill. We don't lean into the body's capabilities, the body's ability to use angiogenesis, the body's ability to use its stimulate stem cells. Okay, using the body's immune system, okay, instead of using antibiotics and chemo as a first line therapy. The microbiome that I touched on before and how important it is. Autophagy, which is intracellular cleansing that gets rid of dead cells and waste out of the body so that they don't develop into disease and cancer. We're not taught how to stimulate the body's natural ability to heal. And there are things that we can do to stimulate the body's natural ability to heal other than food. But we're not taught those things. So the first thing we do is take a whole bunch of antibiotics, throw it on you, and guess what? That not only kills your microbiome in your body, okay, but it kills a whole lot of other things that are very important too. We take chemo, boom, throw it into the body to fight off cancer, but guess what? Chemo is not distinctive. It kills both cancerous cells and healthy cells as well too. So instead of our approach being, how do we stimulate the body's natural ability? Because the idea, if you have cancer, your cancer is going to be one of the body's primary way of fighting cancer is our immune system. What are we taught to teach our patients to stimulate their immune system? We don't teach them much. We don't teach them much. So those are the eight essentials to health and healing that they do not teach healthcare professionals and they do not teach your doctor, which is why they don't teach you. Okay. I hope you guys have enjoyed this message today. Please share this with somebody. Please share this with somebody. I know I have people in my family I'm always trying to convince them to take a more holistic approach to health and healing. And they're so addicted to a pill. They're so addicted to the idea that the only thing that could save me is taking a capsule, a pill, getting a surgery, doing chemo, whatever it may be. They're so addicted to that they don't even try to do anything to save themselves. So please share this video. The whole purpose is to inspire people to take their health back, to inspire people to become more responsible for their health, to take ownership of their health by using these natural methods of maintaining their health so that they can prevent disease. So the most important thing is if you can prevent it An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cures. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. Remember, this is a movement. I do this work for you so that you could do this work for the people in your circle. So share this video with other people. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. That helps me know that this message is reaching the people. Until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.